Well, hello everyone. Happy New Year and welcome to our education session entitled Finding Your Way, Living Safely in the Community. My name is Allie Grady and I'm an education coordinator with the Alzheimer's Society of Peterborough, Kawartha Lakes, Northumberland, and Haliburton. With me today is Chris Van Leuven, who's another member of our education team. And we are very happy for this opportunity to collaborate and bring you this conversation and presentation. So we recognize that throughout our discussion today, there may be several questions that come up. Just in the interest of time, and just because when I'm sharing, I can't always see the chat, we will just ask you to hold your questions to the end of the presentation. Feel free to jot it down in the chat box or even on a piece of paper so that you don't forget, and we will make sure to have time for questions at the conclusion of our presentation. Thank you so much for joining us today. Let's get started. So I want to start out today's presentation by giving you a bit of background on how the Finding Your Way program came to be. So it's actually part of Ontario's Action Plan for Seniors. So the Ontario Senior Secretariat partnered with the Alzheimer's Society of Ontario to create and roll out the Finding Your Way program. And it was created because there was a concern over the number of deaths and injuries that were occurring as a result of people living with dementia going missing. So we created this presentation to create awareness and foster some prevention of these incidents in our communities. What are the effects of dementia? Well, people living with dementia are often able to maintain their usual level of abilities for some time, but eventually will experience changes in all aspects of their life. As nerve cells in the brain are damaged and the disease progresses, a person will experience changes in their cognition, their emotions, their behavior, and their physical abilities. Each person is affected differently. It's difficult to predict what symptoms each person will have, the order in which they will appear, or the speed of their progression. That being said, there are some common things that we see. So in terms of cognitive abilities, the disease affects a person's ability to understand, think, remember, and communicate. They may be unable to do simple tasks. They may have trouble remembering people's names, including their own, where they are, or what they are about to do. They may also have difficulty understanding what is being said and making themselves understood. Now, that being said, people with dementia are still, however, able to hear, respond to our emotions, and be aware of touch. Responsive behaviors. So, due to changes in the brain, a person with dementia may have increasing difficulty communicating verbally with their words and may therefore use actions and gestures to communicate what they're feeling or how they're responding to their environment. And that's why we call them responsive behaviors, it's because the behavior comes as a response to something happening in the environment. So changes in these cognitive abilities and in mood may cause the person with dementia to experience things like pacing, walking back and forth, agitation and frustration, repetitive actions like folding or wringing the hands, hiding things, constantly searching for something, undressing, or having emotional outbursts. Spatial perception. A person living with dementia may have difficulty judging the environment around them, and this is due to the changes in the brain. For example, they may have challenges walking up and down the stairs because they are unable to judge the height of the steps or the distance between them. They may also try to walk around a black floor tile, for example, because they perceive it as a hole in the ground. Physical abilities change too with the progression of dementia. Coordination and the ability to move may be affected. Changes in the physical abilities can also impact a person's ability to take directions or to execute an action. So you may be trying to help the person to execute a task, or even to leave a harmful situation, like say a fire in the home. The person may have heard you and understood you, but may not know how to follow your directive. And again, it's not because they're not trying, it's because of the changes in the brain. Another area that is affected by dementia is emotions and mood. A person with dementia may find that they have trouble or difficulty controlling their moods and emotions. They may appear sad one moment, angry the next. They may laugh when it's not socially appropriate, or they might worry a great deal about something that we think is really small. They might be suspicious of people around them, even family members or friends who support them. These emotions and moods too can change very rapidly and may be difficult to predict. The person may also exhibit defensive behavior. So if you approach too quickly, they might hit you. They may not remember how an incident happened or may be suspicious of those around them. So those are just a few things that are affected by dementia. And I'm going to pass it over to Chris to talk a little bit more about finding your way and what it's designed to do.
Well, finding your way helps people living with dementia, their caregivers, first responders, and communities manage the risks faced by people with memory loss who may go missing from their homes. The program also provides some valuable tools and resources like a digital marketing campaign, educational seminars, and a resource guide called Living Safely with Dementia. These will help older Ontarians living with dementia to stay safe in their communities, and it'll allow them to avoid crisis situations, which can lead to hospitalization or an accelerated admission to long-term care. There are four main goals or objectives of the Finding Your Way program. It's a program that's designed to raise awareness about the risk of going missing for people who are living with dementia. Additionally, it was designed to help prevent those missing incidents by promoting the creation of a safety plan. It was initiated to support the safe return of people who do go missing. And finally, it helps us to enable all members of the community to help to support a person who's living with dementia and their care partner. So, why is finding your way important? To outline the importance of the Finding Your Way program, it's really helpful to take a look at what some of the statistics are telling us. Over 250,000 Ontarians are living with dementia. Approximately 10,740 seniors live with dementia in the counties of Peterborough, Kawartha Lakes, Northumberland, and Haliburton. And dementia experts estimate that between 5 and 10 individuals comprise the circle of care for each person living with dementia. So conservatively, that means that at least 53,700 people in our service area, in the 4 counties we serve, are impacted by the disease. So as you can see, there's a large population within our communities and neighborhoods who live with dementia or care for someone who's living with dementia. Finding Your Way is one way by which we can support those living with dementia to reduce risk and to help them to live safely. Becoming lost isn't something that's just distressing, it's very dangerous or can be very dangerous. 6 out of 10 people living with dementia will go missing. With such a high occurrence, The statistics tell us that it's not a matter of if a missing incident will happen, but it can be a matter of when. We've already had some really extreme cold temperatures this winter, and you can imagine the risk that elements pose to someone with dementia who's become lost. Half the people with dementia who go missing for 24 hours end up either seriously injured or even there's a possibility of death as well. A person living with dementia can become lost in the moment, and that's because a person's brain can't necessarily identify wayfinding markers to help put them back in place, and they can become disoriented. Even if a person has not gotten lost or left their care partner unexpectedly in the past, it doesn't mean that it's not going to happen. A person living with dementia can go missing at any time, and it's possible that it will happen earlier in the disease process than what you might expect. Being proactive rather than reactive is important to keeping people safe. So some of the reasons that somebody living with dementia might become lost is that they're feeling restless, they might be feeling bored, they may be searching for something from the past, or they may be feeling a sense of excess energy. I'm going to turn it back over to Ali now, who's going to give us some more insight into the reasons why people living with dementia go missing.
Thanks, Chris. So it's important to know that most people living with dementia who go missing with a purpose. They are not just wandering around aimlessly. Here are some common reasons why people living with dementia go missing. Restlessness. They might need a change of scenery or just a change in their environment or a need to move. These can all cause a person living with dementia to be restless and seek an alternative environment. Confusion of time. A person living with dementia may believe they are late for a visit with their friends, so they may leave the house to go see them, when in fact these visits ended long ago. People living with dementia may experience insomnia or wake in the early hours and become disoriented. They may think that it's daytime and decide to go for a walk. Relieving boredom. Just like everyone else, people living with dementia need to feel a sense of purpose. If they are bored, it can cause restlessness. Keeping the person living with dementia engaged can help relieve boredom. Searching for the past. A person living with dementia can sometimes appear to be a time traveler, going from the present time to years long before. They may be searching for their childhood home, parents, even if they might be deceased, or a workplace that they left many years ago. They might be responding to anxiety. People living with dementia often live with anxiety severe enough to cause those responsive behaviors that we were talking about earlier. Their senses may also be heightened, and noises, colors, and smells may cause too much stimulation, prompting them to search for a different, calmer environment. Lack of physical activity. Again, just like all of us, people living with dementia need physical exercise and fresh air. They may leave home simply to get outside and get some exercise. People living with dementia may find it harder as the disease progresses to concentrate on tasks and may walk away from an activity and keep walking to have something to do. They may also be trying to continue a habit or interest. Some people living with dementia may believe that they have a task to do, like go to work or pick up the kids from school, even if that has not been their role for years or even decades. For example, I used to work with a gentleman who owned a farm for many, many years, and his prized possession were his race horses. Every day he would come up and ask me and the team to go home so that he could check on his horses. even though he had sold his horses several years earlier and the dementia just caused him not to remember. Why else do people living with dementia go missing? Well, sometimes we can point to that loss of memory. The person may set out to run an errand and forget where they were going and why. They may go out looking for a family member because they forgot where their family member said they were going. The changed environment. Sometimes if we have changed something in our homes or if the person is visiting family and in a different environment, the changed environment can cause the person to feel anxious or nervous, and they may leave it in search of something familiar. Discomfort or pain can also be a factor. Walking may ease that physical discomfort. If you think this might be a factor, it's important to do a medical checkup and see if there's ways to manage that pain. And finally, dreams. I know that sometimes for myself, it can be hard when I first wake up to distinguish between dreams and reality, but it can also be challenging for a person living with dementia sometimes to differentiate between dreams and reality. So they may go into action because they thought their dream was real. So all the potential reasons for someone with dementia to go missing are related to changes that are occurring in the brain. I'm going to hand it back over to Chris, who's going to talk about recognizing the signs of someone going missing and what we can do.
It's important to know how to recognize someone who might be lost, how to communicate, and how to provide resources to lessen the chances of it occurring again. Let's explore some of the signs that might indicate that someone is experiencing confusion about their whereabouts. There are no obvious physical characteristics which can easily identify someone with dementia. There are, however, some clues that might suggest that a person is affected by the disease. These are the common signs and symptoms to look for. Number one, the person might not understand the current situation or is unable to sort out the obvious. So for example, the person might not be able to tell you pertinent details such as her name or her current address, and she may not know where she is or what her destination is. She might not know where she's going. Second on the screen there is that the person might have to be told repeatedly who you are and what it is you want. Remember, people living with dementia often have difficulties with their short-term memory. You may have to remind them that you're there to help, and you might want to keep offering some comfort and reassurance. The person may demonstrate a range of emotions. You may notice that the person is experiencing changes in their mood, and it might be rapid changes. They might be going from fearful to angry to crying in a short period of time. And their level of emotion may not be what you would expect given the situation. Abrupt mood swings are a common symptom of dementia. You can help by keeping calm and keeping a calm and measured demeanor and tone yourself. The fourth sign to look for is that the person's facial expression, their reaction, or their demeanor may seem incongruous to the situation. For example, the person may be laughing after just getting into a car accident. It's important to recognize that the person is not intentionally being obtuse. Their reaction is due to the changes in the brain caused by dementia. Sign number 5, the person might be standing still, looking around for an extended period of time. For people living with dementia, the concept of time can be skewed, and they may not realize how long they've been standing in the same place. Furthermore, difficulties with their memory may cause them to forget why they came to a particular location or how they came to be there. Additionally, difficulties with problem-solving abilities might prohibit the person from being able to reorient themselves, ask for help, or return to familiar surroundings. And the last sign we're going to talk about is that the person might be inappropriately dressed. A person living with dementia might exit their home in their pajamas. They may not wear a coat in the middle of winter, or they may be quite overdressed in the middle of summer. It's important to remember that one common symptom of dementia is impaired judgment. The person doesn't realize that they aren't wearing shoes on the cold, snowy ground. This can be very dangerous for the person living with dementia, as inappropriate attire can lead to medical emergencies like frostbite, hypothermia, or heat stroke. There are some common behavior patterns that people living with dementia tend to exhibit when they go missing. Knowing these patterns might be more relevant to search and rescue personnel. However, we've decided to include them in this presentation, as it's good to know what can happen or what it might look like when a person living with dementia is lost. They may not ask for help because they don't believe that they need it. They may not realize that they are lost. They may be unable to read street signs or understand traffic lights, for example. So they may be walking out into an intersection when it's not their turn because they're not understanding how the traffic light operates. They might deny being lost. That could be because they're not understanding what is being asked of them, or maybe they're embarrassed. They might not realize they're missing and need assistance, and therefore they won't call or they won't answer if you're calling out to them. So you could be in a search, yelling this person's name, and they are not responding, or they're hiding because they are not sure, they don't realize that they're lost and that they're being looked for. An example of this is that we had a client that was lost and people were looking for them, and they were found in a garage hiding behind boxes for an extended period of time, and they weren't, even though they were being looked for and their name was being called out, they weren't responding, they were hiding. Another behavior that happens typically when somebody with dementia has lost their way is that they often travel in a straight line. Even if the train's not safe, they don't take the path of least resistance. They'll walk into a forest, they'll walk onto a busy highway. They're just traveling in a straight trajectory without any kind of concept of what's going on around them. We're now going to watch a little video clip that will introduce us to some strategies to help someone who might look lost or might be displaying some of those behaviors.
If you came across someone in public who was lost or confused about their surroundings, would you know what to do? We can all play an important role in making our community safe for people living with dementia. 60% of people living with dementia are at risk of going missing. Even familiar surroundings may suddenly become disorienting to them, which can mean they may not find their way home. Becoming lost isn't just distressing, it can be dangerous. The first 24 hours are very important when someone with dementia is missing. Finding them quickly dramatically reduces the chance of serious injury by half. That's why it's so important to offer assistance when we come across someone in need of help. Resources on the Finding Your Way website can help people recognize the signs that someone may be lost and can offer guidance on how to help them return home safely. For deeper understanding, learning is also available through a free, user-friendly online course. For more information and to learn about other programs and services for those affected by dementia, please contact your local Alzheimer's Society. You can find your local society by using the search feature on the Alzheimer's Society website at www.alzheimer.ca.
So I think that video helps to give us kind of a brief overview of how to help. Let's go a little bit more in depth into some of those strategies. So if we notice a person demonstrating the signs of confusion when we're out and about in our community, here are some tips that might help that individual. First one is to approach the person from the front. As dementia progresses, the peripheral vision, or the vision on kind of the sides, decreases. The person living with dementia may not be able to see you approaching if you come from the side or from the back. Avoid startling the person by ensuring that you are in their field of vision as you approach. So usually that means coming directly from the front. Be sure to identify yourself as well. It can be helpful just to use your first name, as it can be easier to remember. Speak slowly and calmly, while still being sure to use language and a tone that is respectful. We want to avoid speaking to the person as if they are a child. Use plain language and ask questions that require a simple yes or no response. Yes and no questions are less difficult for the person to comprehend and to respond to. They require less information processing. For example, instead of asking, "Where are you going?" you might ask, "Are you going to the store?" Do not raise your voice. It can be really tempting when a person isn't responding right away to think that maybe they have some hearing loss and that it might be better to just shout at them. But sometimes raising our volume and tone can make the person feel threatened. So we want to keep a calm and respectful volume and tone. Ask questions one at a time. People who have difficulty with memory and language will require extra time to think about and formulate a response to our questions. Asking too many questions at once can be overwhelming and can make the person feel as if they are being interrogated. We also want to make sure that we give the person enough time to respond. I know Sarah told me once that it can take up to 30 seconds for the person to understand what is being said, formulate a response, turn that into language, and then tell the body to speak it. So really give people time to answer your question before asking again. And going along with that, repeat the question using the same words used the first time. Oftentimes we rephrase questions or explanations when we think someone is having trouble understanding. This is not the best strategy for when speaking to someone living with dementia. Rephrasing your original question may interrupt the person's processing, or they may misinterpret and think that you have asked an additional question. Maintain a calm environment. If you can, eliminate any noise and distractions where possible, and keep your body language friendly, open, and welcoming. This might mean asking if they want to come off of the sidewalk and out of the busy stream of traffic. Maintain good eye contact as culturally appropriate, as your presence and full attention can be reassuring to the person who may be feeling vulnerable and confused. Avoid confrontation. If the person reacts to you in a defensive way, recognize that they are likely feeling nervous or afraid. Do your best to demonstrate both verbally and with your body language that you are not a threat and that you are there to help. Give the person space until they feel more comfortable. Get down on their level if they're sitting, Ask them their name and offer assistance. Avoid correcting. When someone seems confused about where they are, the time of day, or even the year, it can be tempting to correct them. For people living with dementia, however, it's not helpful to try and reorient them to our reality. It just adds to their confusion. Instead, meet them where they're at and use clues from what they're telling you about their reality to better connect with them. So you may know, maybe you don't know, but the person may be older and they say, I'm looking for my mother. And in your head, you think, oh, how could you possibly be looking for your mother? But instead of saying that, you could say, oh, I'm sorry that they're missing. How can I help? Call police or use your local 911. Research has shown that if a person living with Alzheimer's disease is not found within 12 hours of being lost, there's a 50% chance that they'll be found injured or dead from hypothermia, dehydration, or drowning. This is why it's so important to call police if you encounter someone with dementia who has lost their way. It's also important to stay with the person until police arrive, even though this may mean walking with them or following behind them.
It's common for people living with dementia to experience difficulties with communication. Ali touched on that a little bit earlier in the presentation. The person with dementia, they might appear angry, and you might not know why or how to respond. And remember that we call behaviors responsive, and so the person's tone might reflect the fear that they're feeling. Or it might reflect the frustration that they're feeling, that they're in a situation where they don't know where they are. The person might be unable to communicate to you how they're feeling or why they're feeling that way. They may tell you something that you know can't be true or doesn't make sense. And that comes back to memory loss, where they may be mistaking where they are. They may have disorientation in where they are in time or even in location. They may forget activities, events, and conversations that they've had. So they may be misinterpreting where they are and where they're supposed to be based on that memory loss. A person with dementia might have difficulty expressing themselves. They might have difficulty making sense of what others are saying to them. They may have challenges when it comes to filtering out distractions. They may have difficulty with language as a whole. They might have trouble word finding, or they may have trouble putting sentences together in a way that makes sense. And they may also have difficulty physically with coordinating their muscles. So based on those difficulties, we have some strategies here to help you communicate with the person that is living with dementia and that may be lost or may have lost their way. So before you speak, and Ali mentioned this, be sure to be approaching from the front. Changes in the brain can cause a loss in peripheral vision. So, and that person may have tunnel vision. So if you're coming from the side, that can startle the person. Find a quiet place where they can concentrate that has less distractions. A person living with dementia is easily distracted by other people or too many noises. And those distractions can cause some anxiety, which is really going to prohibit their ability to communicate effectively. Always make eye contact so that they know that you are speaking to them, if it's culturally appropriate. Make sure that your body language presents comfort and safety. So I always say that People living with dementia are really good at reading a room. They are very in tune with the body language that you are throwing off and the emotions that you're throwing off. So be sure that your physical body language matches your tone of voice, and that's going to go a long way to improving communication. Consider removing any hat or helmet or anything that might be perceived as intimidating. Also, if you can create a space where they feel that they can trust and confide in you, maybe that's just leading them to a bench and asking them to have a seat if that's possible. That will open up those lines of communication a bit better. How to speak. Speak at a slower pace that's clear and concise. So Ali touched on this as well. We don't want to raise our volume for the person because they may misinterpret that as you shouting or you being angry. Present one idea at a time and give them time to follow that direction before moving on to something else. Ask those simple questions that just require a yes or no answer. Be sure to use an appropriate tone of voice and just monitor that your tone reflects respect and that you're talking to another adult. And give them time to answer or follow through on a task. What to do and say. So be sure to identify yourself. Don't assume that they know who you are, and that might help ease some insecurity that they may have. Once again, beware of your body language because people living with dementia tend to pay more attention to our physical cues rather than what we're saying. If the person doesn't seem to understand you at first, try repeating a second time, but use that same language. Make sure to read their body language. So if it seems like they're fearful, or it seems like they are just taking time to formulate a response, make sure to give them that time. Use both your words and physical cues to help in communicating and listening. Avoid reality checking the person because this can cause added fear and anxiety. So if they are sure that they are supposed to be meeting their mother, again, we'll use Ali's example, at a specific location, and you know that that's not likely the case, just try and join them in their reality and that'll help create a sense of comfort and safety. So if you know that, this person is elderly and it's not likely that their mother is meeting them there, you could ask them questions about their mom or ask them questions about their childhood. I'm going to turn it back over to Ali now, and we're going to look at some ways of preventing the risk of going missing.
Thanks, Chris. So we've talked a little bit about why a person living with dementia might go missing. We've talked about how you might approach someone if they look like they might have dementia or they might be missing when you're out in public. Now let's turn our focus to how we can prevent episodes of going missing. So one of the best ways to address the safety concerns associated with a person living with dementia who is at risk of going missing is to identify some strategies for prevention. Here are some measures that we can put in place to hopefully prevent a missing incident. And we're going to talk about these a little bit more in depth as we go along, but I'll just read them out for now. So register on the Medical Alert Safely Home to get a Medical Alert bracelet. Register with the Vulnerable Person Registry in your area. Fill out the identification kit found in the Finding Your Way booklet and take a current picture. We'll show you an example of this kit. Make sure the person's always carrying identification, whether that's in a wallet or or in their purse. You might consider a locating device. Even a cell phone these days has a GPS usually built right in. Involve your neighbors, family, and friends. Have a buddy system so that the person can go out with someone that they know and trust. And create check-in systems and routines. So I've got a little video here. And this one's talking about creating a safety plan and talks a little bit about locating devices.
6 in 10 people with dementia become lost at some point. The balance between independence and safety is a delicate one. Locating technology can be useful for those living with dementia and for care partners by helping to create a safer environment or monitor from a distance. While being lost is distressing and has the potential to be dangerous, having a safety plan and a locating device can shorten search times and may reduce possible harm. The Finding Your Way website provides many resources to help people living with dementia and care partners decide if locating technology fits within their safety plan. On our website, you can find important information about features to consider when choosing a locating device, as well as possible limitations. Also provided are examples of available locating devices and their features. This may help to explore whether a device could increase safety for the person living with dementia. Although locating technology can be a helpful part of any safety plan, it is also important to complete an identification kit used by police if a person living with dementia does become lost. You can download an identification kit from our website, or find information about enrolling in a registry such as Medic Alert Safely Home or Vulnerable Persons Registry. For more information and to learn about other programs and services for those affected by dementia, please contact your local Alzheimer's Society. You can find your local society by using the search feature on the Alzheimer's Society website at www.alzheimer.ca.
Pass it back over to Chris, who's going to talk a little bit more about some of these programs and services.
Yeah, so we're going to start by talking a little bit about Medic Alert Safely Home. It's a nationwide service designed to help identify a person living with dementia who's gone missing and ensures that the person returns to their family safely. So you can see here on the screen a picture of a Medical Alert Safely Home bracelet. And I'm sure you've probably seen the regular Medical Alert bracelets, and they've got a red insignia on the front. With the Medical Alert Safely Home, it's different because the insignia on the front is blue. So it's easy to recognize right off the bat that if there's somebody wearing a Medical Alert bracelet that has blue as opposed to red, that is a Medical Alert Safely Home bracelet and that the person is living with dementia. So how does Medical Alert Safely Home protect a person living with dementia? Well, if the person is found and they have one of these bracelets on, emergency responders can call the 24/7 Medical Alert hotline to access the critical information that they need to contact that person's care partner. This helps to reunite the family as quick as possible. If the person who's wearing a Medical Alert Safely Home bracelet goes missing, their care partner will immediately call 911 and let first responders know that the person missing wears this type of Medical Alert ID. First responders and police can then call the Medical Alert 24/7 emergency hotline with the person who's living with dementia's Medical Alert subscriber ID number to obtain a recent photo, a physical description, and possible whereabouts and other vital information about the person. So if you're interested, if you're not already signed up for Medical Alert Safely Home, there is a fee attached to this program. It is smaller than a regular medical alert bracelet. It's for the first year, it's $60, and that provides you with your bracelet. And then beyond that first year, it's $5 a month after that. The next tool we're going to look at here is the Finding Your Way identification kit. The ID kit is available to print on the Finding Your Way website, and it's a really valuable tool to be able to provide to police or emergency personnel in the event that a person living with dementia goes missing. It's a 5-page document, which is comprised of 5 parts for a care partner to complete, which include your basic information like name, date of birth, etc. In the second section, it's appearance and physical description, which can be very helpful for police and emergency responders that are looking for a particular person. In the third section, it's information about health and wellness. Does this person wear hearing aids or glasses? Do they have mobility issues? Are they smokers? Do they have allergies or other chronic conditions? What medication do they take? And information about the person's family physician. In the fourth section, it's about personality and life. So that includes their regular habits, which might be an indicator of where they might go. Spiritual and cultural needs, their favorite things, anything that might be triggering for them, tips and strategies for the best way to communicate with that particular person, tips and strategies to help that person calm down. In the fifth section, it's all about life history. So that's where you'll list the person's previous addresses, which might be places where that person would be likely to return to. It also has a section for you to list their previous employment, which may provide emergency personnel with some other places to look. And it also outlines a spot where you can include if they've gone missing before and where they were found in those previous incidents. The Finding Your Way identification kit should be completed and kept up to date, and if possible, kept in a central location in your home. For example, maybe on a hall table or stuck up with a magnet on the fridge, just so that you don't have to go searching for it in the event of this type of emergency. So now Ali is going to talk a little bit about the resources that are available on the Finding Your Way website.
So we know that we have given you a lot of information today, and it can be hard to remember all of it. So we will have a recording of this video, but in addition to that, the website has this resource that they've called Living Safely with Dementia. And it includes a lot of the information that we've talked about today in a short, digestible pamphlet. And you can, again, access these online through the Finding Your Way Ontario website. Or if you'd prefer, you can contact one of us or your client support coordinator if you're connected with our Alzheimer's Society, and we can send these out to you the next time you come into our office. And finally, we're really happy to share with you that there is a new free online learning course that you can take on living safely with dementia. And again, you can access this through the Finding Your Way website. What I love about this is that you can share it with your friends and family, or even your neighbors, anyone who you think might encounter someone living with dementia. I'm going to pass it back to Chris just to talk a little bit about how keeping people with living with dementia safe is a community effort. It's not an individual one.
So unfortunately, there's not any one single strategy that can guarantee the safety of a person living with dementia. We all need to work together to support people living with dementia as well as their care partners and family members. It truly is a community effort.
So some of the resources that we talked about today, again, can be downloaded and printed from the Finding Your Way website, or you can let us know if you need it sent to you. Some of those include that Living Safely with Dementia, a resource guide, the little pamphlet, how to help someone who is lost or confused, the identification form that Chris was talking about, the locating devices information and checklist. There's also a couple of resources that we haven't talked about. One is an incident response checklist. So if a person, if you do notice that someone has gone missing, it gives a step-by-step what to do, because it can be really disorienting at the time, thinking, oh my gosh, where do I start? And it just guides you through. There's also a post-incident response checklist. So once you've been reunited, it goes over some of the things to think about for next time. There's also a really great resource called Safety When Out and About, and it's a by us, for us guide. If you're interested in any of these resources, please feel free to reach out to us and we can either send you the link. They're all free resources, or we can send them out to you. Well, I want to thank you so much for participating in this workshop today. We really hope that this information has been helpful and beneficial. And I'm going to ask Sarah to stop the recording there, and we